trying to defend slavery. But why? How does he do it? And so let's go and take a look at this. Let's go and take a look at the purpose of it. And there's a lot in here of what he did. In fact, I'm going to kind of walk around and see. Where's your document? You're busy drawing a picture. I'll go away and get that out. And always think historical context. It helps so much. Just background material. So in it, he laid out what he is trying to do. He wants a certain thing out of this. So, first off, before we get started, what does he call slavery? He doesn't really say slavery until the very end. What does he call it? He does say it's he does call it what, a political institution, therefore a policy, yeah. But he has another term for it. Look at the 4th paragraph. The number of deaf, dumb, blind, idiots, and insane of the Negroes in the States that have changed the ancient relation. When he says ancient relation, what is he implying? How long has slavery been going on? Forever. Now, slavery as it existed in the colonies of the United States has not been going on for all time. It was different. But he's implying it has always been like this, so it's what? It's right. I heard someone say natural, just the way it is. Why would you ever change the way things are supposed to be? You blow up the whole thing. And in it, he lays out he's talking about why, as long as Great Britain has this policy of abolishing slavery, we can't allow that in here. And he lays out why this is bad. Now, first off, let's look back at this number. The number of deaf, dumb, blind, idiots, insane of Negroes in the States that have changed the ancient relation. How does one count the number of idiots and insane? I should have what's dumb. I can't call it. By the way, that's implying that there's something morally wrong with being deaf, dumb, and blind. There's something wrong with them. Therefore, that means that somehow the society they grew up in caused them to become deaf. And so there's some kind of moral failing for somebody who's deaf. How do you count idiots and insane people? By the way, they did count people. What was this called? So is there a box on the census that says, are you insane? Yes, I am. I am insane. I am an idiot. Okay. Where do you count that? He also says there are other, there's other facts here. The states have retained the ancient relationship and they have improved greatly in every respect in number, comfort, intelligence, and morals, as the following facts will illustrate. So he says that states that have changed the ancient relationship between the races, meaning they got rid of what? Is 1 out of every 96, while states adhering to it, it's 1 out of 672. Meaning there are more deaf, dumb, blind, idiots, and insane people in areas that got rid of slavery. Can you argue with that? It says right there, these following facts will illustrate. Therefore, the system of slavery is doing what for the slaves? It's helping them. It's helping them, yes. Hmm? You don't what? No, I'm recording. I'm just not recording the screen.
Okay.
Yes. He's trying to say that people who, under slavery, there are fewer people that are deaf, dumb, and blind. So there's fewer slave, specifically talking about race. So there are fewer people of African descent that are deaf, dumb, and blind if they're slaves. So you're just saying, hey, and so slavery is actually curing deaf, dumb, and blindness. That's curing it, I guess is the best way to look at it. Yeah.
How are they counting it?
How are they counting this? Where do you get this number from? He's lying? Yeah, he is completely making this up. This is what we call garbage. It is pure, unadulterated, lying garbage. And why does he do it? Pure self-interest. He knows if he lays out some numbers, defenders of slavery will think what? I got some facts behind me, don't I? Even if they know it's garbage, they can start just spewing out stuff. Oh yeah, well, 1 out of 96, or what? Where did you get that from? Facts. Does that work? Oh yeah. Because most people what?
Don't do their own research.
Yeah, they don't know. And they just assume that this person would not be just blatantly lying to them. Well, he has a certain vested self-interest, whatever it takes to protect slavery. And so, this is census and other authentic sources of information.
The second you hear that, you automatically know that it's not true.
Well,
What authentic sources of information? What are they? They just are.
he just knows. He got it from somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just thinking somewhere. Okay, so with that, so read the next paragraph. On the other hand, census and other authentic sources of information establish the fact that the condition of the African race throughout all the states where the ancient relation between the two has been retained enjoy a degree of health and comfort which may well compare with that of the laboring population of any country in Christendom. And may add that in no other condition or in any other age or country has the Negro race ever attained so high an elevation in morals, intelligence, or civilization. So what is slavery doing for the slaves? It is helping them, isn't it? This slavery has really only one purpose, and what's that? To help the slaves. They're not doing it for money or wealth. They are doing it to help these poor slaves, who in their own country, they would be savages. But here, under slavery, yeah, slavery sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I mean, gosh, you got this, you're being civilized, this whole system's created for you. Yeah.
So when they say condition of the African race, it makes me think of like condition. I don't know, something negative. Are they talking about like what is the condition?
So they're implying that in Africa, they were essentially savages.
And that's the condition.
That's but the condition in the United States as slaves, they're being civilized. So this is a system that is for them. If such be the wretched condition of the race in their changed relation, with a number is comparatively few, where so much interest is manifested for their improvement, what would it be in those states where the two races are nearly equal in number? Okay, that's what we call an ouch statement. Is that kind of hard to read? Look at that, the last paragraph, read that first line. What does he mean? What does he mean in that? It's really hard to read. It's like, yeah.
So it says the wretched condition of the race.
Yeah, so it's implying that the relation should be master and slave, but if you change that to go down natural, exactly right.
Condition is to be not terrible. or wretched, if they're not slaves.
Yeah. And he's also saying this, where so much interest is manifested for their improvement. He's implying that the whole system of slavery has one purpose, for the improvement of the slaves. So the slaves can be helped. Now, did he believe this? It's amazing how people can self-delude themselves to believe all kinds of stuff. But did he really believe that? What was the greatest fear of every slaveholder? Not only that, what did they do for civilization for the slaves? If they needed extra money, what did they do? Yeah, they'd sell the kids off. Is that civilizing? They knew what they were doing. Does he believe this? Yeah. He might, his own little, it's all good. But then he goes on and says, where the two races are nearly equal number and where in consequences would naturally spring up mutual fear, jealousy, and hatred between them. It may be in truth be assumed as a maxim that the two races differing so greatly and in so many respects cannot possibly exist together in the same country, where the numbers are nearly equal, without one being subjected to the other, implying that if you have a state, an area, where the population of the two races is relatively equal, and you don't have the ancient relationship anymore, what is going to happen? Let's go back to that. In the middle of that sentence, it says, and in so many respects cannot possibly exist together in the same country, where their numbers are nearly equal, without one being subjected to the other. What's that? Yes. If we free them, that's what he's saying as a white slave, when we free them, the slaves, what will happen to us? We will become the slaves. Now you're bogging yourself down with details. Which, by the way, he knows slavery is bad if what people are the slaves. Because that's not natural. Whites aren't supposed to be slaves. Who are supposed to be slaves? Which, by the way, color of skin didn't matter for slavery until colonization. It was just slavery was whoever we could get as slaves, kind of like indentured servitude. But it's this ancient relationship now. Experience has proved that the existing relationship in which one is subject to the other in the slave-only states is consistent with the peace, safety, with the great improvement to the inferior. Where you have slaves, you have peace, you have security, and those who are slaves are being helped. You get rid of that, and the whole system falls apart. What system must the United States run? Isn't slavery better? That's what he's saying. Does he believe this? It doesn't matter. He is giving the South an argument. He's giving them an argument. This is a lot better argument than I want to work someone to death because I like my mansion and my fine wine. Now it's, no, I'm civilizing them. Sure, I might get some benefit, but don't I deserve a little bit of this? And it's natural. I am supposed to be on top. So, this is what you're going to do. Everybody read The Positive Good Theory of Slavery. It's the next one. 2 years later, 1846, Calhoun would organize his thoughts into this. So, quick think historical content, go through 4 things just really quick, and then read it. And there are 2 big purposes, 2 big points he's making here. And one more thing. When he talks about Britain or Europe, who's he really talking about? Say it again. Specifically where? The North. He's talking about Britain and Europe, but it's a proxy for the North. So he said, I'm not bad-mouthing the North, I'm talking about Britain, but everybody knows what it is. Okay, quick read it. Think about 4 things, historical content, and go back and find the 2 big points he makes. better organization system. Two big points he makes. What do I got this? It's pretty, isn't it? Someone first period noticed one thing. It's not just a good thing. It's a positive good thing. That's slavery. It's a net benefit for everybody. Slaves, free people, masters, workers, free states, slave states. It's a positive good. So, the thing about this one is, the historical context about the same thing. And you notice he talks a little bit about the all the different, the two different people coming together. What does he say has always existed in every wealthy and civilized society like the United States? Yes.
A system where one class benefits off the labor of another.
Yeah, always. There's one class on top, and then you people, the laborers. There's always one group on top, and then the laborers. By the way, that's his view then about most people then. It's me, the life I lead, and then the workers, the drones. I'm pointing at you, but we're the masses. So I mean, just all of us. So there's always somebody on top, and then the labor. Always. It is unnatural not to have that. By the way, that means that, what do we call that? Where you have a system where a tiny little group is on top and everybody at the bottom. It could be an oligarchy, but that's more like a government, but it's the same kind of idea. What do you call that? Kind of people who have inherited wealth who are on top. You've heard a couple of different versions, but obviously the aristocracy, but something like that. And who's the aristocracy? Calhoun, right? There's always been that. So every society, north, south, slave, free, someone on top. We gotta be very clear about it. That means him. He's on top. And what's the best system? If this is the way it's always going to be, and if the United States government is going to decide which system will go here, and we know it's going to be a tiny group on top and everybody else will be workers, what will be the best system? And how does he lay out what slavery, why it's better? There's always going to be a tiny group on top and everyone else will be workers. Who will those workers be? And how will they be treated? So let's look at the next one. What's he talk about here? I might say with truth that in few countries, so much is left to the share of the laborer, and so much exacted from him. Or where there is more kind attention paid to him in sickness or infirmities of age. Where is that society where so little is asked of the worker and so much care given to him? Yes.
The North.
Did he say that?
No.
He's saying the workers don't have to give as much, and the workers are cared for. Where's that happening? The South. In the South. Their kind attention is paid to the slaves from the moment they're born until they die. The whole system is geared to help them. And how much is asked for from them? Almost nothing. How do we know that? He says it right here. Compare its condition with the tenants of the poorhouses in the more civilized portion of Europe. When he says civilized portion of Europe, he's talking New York City. That's what he means. He's talking the North. Don't forget, which system? The system of poorhouses and wretched condition of workers here, or look how kindly the workers are treated. Can you argue with that? Once again, that slavery thing seems pretty nice. Look at the sick and old and infirm slave on one hand, in the midst of his family and friends, under the kind and superintending care of his masters in business. So if the slave is ill, who's there caring for them? Their master. From day one, caring, helping them, feeding them. Sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? But what happens to the worker in the Europe compared to the forlorn and wretched conditions of the pauper in the poorhouse? If you're in the North and you lose your job, what happens? You're on the street. Nobody cares. All those on top in the North want is to squeeze every penny out of the worker. And they care nothing about them. But in the South, what do they want? Those who make the rules. That's what it's. So after reading this, what's Calhoun's view towards democracy, by the way? Do you see why he hates democracy? If you're only supposed to have a few people on top, how could you have the wretched laborers vote? He hates that. I'm going to let them decide my fate. It's me. And one more thing. Is this natural in the North? The ancient relationship between the races are that one race is on top and one race is enslaved. What race are the majority of the workers in the North in 1850? You're going to treat white workers like that? That's the system you want, is where white workers are going to be treated totally opposite to the ancient relationship? And white workers won't take it anymore. They won't take this, being treated as a completely unnatural way. And what will they do? Huh? Even more than that. Even though he hated labor unions, but take the next step. They'll revolt. You spread this system here, you spread this system here, and you're condemning the United States to revolt. In the South, people know there's places. They treat the workers better. There's more security. That's what we need to do. Now, did he believe this? He wouldn't be so scared about white people becoming slaves in that last paragraph. He didn't know slavery was wrong, but it fits his argument. And this is what you have to write down in your notes. The positive good theory of slavery became the Southern ideology for slavery. It became the Southern ideology to defend slavery. The Southern ideology. Slavery is good because of this. So that positive good theory became the ideology of the South. This is what they said they believed. And this idea that we're civilized. And I remember being in school, being told that slavery was a good thing because they were civilizing the slaves when I was in school. I remember a visiting professor when I was at Rocky Mountain College. And I remember this guy, he said, of course they treated the slaves well. They civilized them and they were too valuable, so they treated them well. And, you know, I'm like, okay, but I mean, I knew that was wrong, but that was just like ingrained. This would become a justification for civil war. And this would go on after the Civil War to justify segregation culture. The positive good theory of slavery is a really important concept, one we need to know. We will come back to this because when the South came back against the wall, they became convinced that Northerners were condemning them to the hells of slave rebellion or something worse, and this would be their justification. So everyone got that? I will come back and I'll refer to the slave positive good theory. Let's get to this. Let's finish up real quick. Last little bit of notes. What the bell rings. So, did we get to here? Did we get to Van Buren, free soil? No slavery in the territories? All right. So, out of the West came a dark horse. And the dark horse, we only got a minute. Oh, I'll do it real quick. Who's the dark horse? A dark horse, did we talk about this yesterday? On Friday? In horse racing, horse racing was really popular sport at that time. And betting on horses. A dark horse was a horse nobody expected to win. Unknown. So in politics, an unknown candidate came out of the West. A dark horse. His name? James Knox. Oh. Young Hickory, meaning he's a protege of whom? Yeah, Andrew Jackson. Yep, Andrew Jackson. By the way, his vice president would be George Dallas. I wonder what town's going to be named after him. By the way, remember when I told you about pictures? He kind of looks, yeah. Well, no one knew who he was. Young Hickory, he was really, known as a fierce politician in the House of Representatives and governor of Tennessee, but he had no background, so they could invent one. He didn't have baggage. And this has happened pretty common. In fact, for the presidents in your lifetime, President Obama and President Trump were both, in a way, dark horses because they had didn't have much of a political career before that. And so they could invent it. The current president had a very long political career, so it's a little bit harder to do that. So with that, and his slogan, 54, 40, and fight, because he could avoid the key issues because he didn't really have this long background, he could apply, I'm all for manifest destiny. Specifically, Oregon. 5440 was the northern boundary of Oregon. All right, so we'll finish this. Oh, we'll finish it soon. But tomorrow, make sure you have this worksheet because the plan is we're going to watch a video. We're going to watch Civil War of the Cause Part 1. All righty then. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.